So hi everybody, I know some of you, most of you I don't. My name is Jennie Sanford, and I'm a certified human resources leader. I have about 14 years in HR, which is a little different than our other guests, but I've spent almost the past 5 years actually working directly in tech SaaS for a couple different companies. But throughout my career, I've worked in companies that are like 25 people to 40,000 people. So I've kind of had a wide area of experience, but I love tech, I love SaaS. So that's where I want to stay for the rest of my career. And that's why I like volunteering and doing things with Halihax and other groups. So I'm going to talk tonight about more broadly what skills managers need. Also applicable to ICs. A lot of this stuff, honestly, is more you need to just be really great and successful as a senior, more developed person in your careers. And they're also great reminders if you're already at that point in your career as well. So, firstly, I want you to think back quickly to what has a great manager done for you? Like when you think of the things that a great manager has done for you, what is it that gave them the skills to do that? Because generally, when we think about a great manager, we don't think like, oh, their technical aptitude was just so high that, they helped me that day. Really, what made them a great help to you is they probably supported you when you were struggling or hit a roadblock, encouraged you to think about it in a way that you unblocked yourself, was your rubber duck, that sort of thing. So, looking more broadly and conceptualizing what great management is outside of just that technical aptitude that people may have is where I kind of want to focus. And then we always talk about these things that are kind of like abstract, like be a good listener. What does that mean? We all think we're good listeners, but what are some like more direct checklist type things we can do when we're trying to have those skills ourselves and be that good manager or that good mentor or, expert ourselves? So, has anyone here watched Ted Lasso? Anybody? Anybody? Yes. I see some nods. If you hadn't, I am a direct sponsor from Apple TV that you need to watch Ted Lasso. And if you had told me a year ago that I would be into a sports-based show based on Jason Sudeikis being a parody football coach, I would have told you you're crazy. But actually, the more I watch the show, one, it's amazing. Two, he's actually an amazing manager and hits a lot of the amazing thing managers need to be without being like a typical manager and also being like an exceptionally vulnerable and disarming person. So my presentation tonight, I just thought I would focus around like the Ted Lasso area of management. And I kind of broke down what I feel those are with these 5 things. And I think that hits a lot of the things that Ted represents, and I think we should all aim to represent ourselves. So I made it as a one easy acronym called KSTVI. It's very easy. You'll all remember it. You'll go home tonight and tell your roommates and spouses and everything. KSTVI. And it's a great way to remember like all the skills you need to have as a manager or, like I say, as just a mentor to someone. So, sounds great. KSTVI. What does it mean? So, within that list, I think all of those things have a few things to them. One thing that I think is often missed in the list of clearly defined expectations or like of management soft skills is clearly defining expectations. And that's one of the conversations I constantly have with managers when they're having a problem with an employee. So they're like, oh, they're not doing X, Y, or Z, or they're only doing this to this level, or they're not doing how I would do it. Have you told them? And by tell them, I don't mean you need a good job. Have you told them when you do that, you have to do it to number this, during this deadline with this like explicit, clearly defined expectations. So what is the expectations you have of them in a task? What is their role in the work they're doing day to day? What is your role as their new manager? What are you gonna do for them and what do you expect them to do for themselves? Where's the line between those two roles? And how do you guys talk together? I think that's one of the things that is the most missed in a lot of like new manager training is explicitly setting up your expectations for them, gives them an opportunity to give their expectations for you and what your relationship is going to be. A lot of people think you should be nice. What does that mean? Where does it go? What is the clear expectations for the two of you in the role? If you both have expectations, then there won't be any guesswork of who does what, when does what, and what you both need from each other. The second thing is trust and support. Schools of thought about trust are different. I think that you can build trust quite quickly with someone by being the one to put that trust out there first, but I think it's harder to keep that trust too. So making sure that you're building a trustful, honest relationship. How you do that, I think that ties into a lot of the other things like good expectations, strong communication, being open and honest, radical candor I'm a big fan of, if you know what that is. So keeping that trust ongoing, making sure that you're consistent with how you talk to them, when you talk to them, what you talk to them about, giving them those negative feedback moments if you need to, and then recognizing when they trust you and thank you for that trust, or thank them for that trust, thank them for making things work, and notice those to make sure that you acknowledge that they're trusting you, not just that you trust them. When you're a manager the first time, it's always hard to trust, and I think you have to be very conscious of it and make sure that you are putting out way more trust than you think, and thanking people when they trust you back. Vulnerability, I think, is it's this concept that we all kind of get shied away from if we've ever had a negative manager ourselves. But when management shows you that vulnerability themselves, it really helps you be more vulnerable. So the more vulnerability you put out as a manager, I find the more vulnerability you get back from employees exponentially. So making sure that when you have those moments where you don't know things or need to learn things or not sure, say, I don't know. And of course, as a manager, there's some stuff that you can share with them and then other stuff you can't, of course. But being vulnerable and saying, I don't know, I have an answer for that, but I don't know if I can share it with you at this point. There's reasonings for this. I don't think we can talk about them yet, but you've established that trust, so you can be vulnerable with them, communicate that line of your relationship, and also tell them where you're at with things, I think is very important. Sharing your experiences is another strong way to be vulnerable. When they fuck up, tell them about your biggest fuck up. When they have things that they need to learn, share how you learned it if they're conscious of it. And also, a big thing that is becoming more prevalent and I think is great is sharing your emotions. You don't have to be a rock just because you're in a business relationship with them. Of course, those emotions should kind of be within one standard deviation of normal in a business world, but making sure that they see you're a human too will go a long way in making sure that they feel welcome and included and that they can be themselves at work too. Accountability, that's probably the most common but communicated in different words in most management trainings, but making sure that when you're expecting accountability from them, because we expect accountability from everyone, that you're taking just as much, if not more, accountability for the things that happen. So we all make mistakes. Owning your mistakes and saying, that's on me, I didn't tell you that, I missed doing that, I told you the wrong information, and make sure you do that publicly. So it's not just between the two of you, but take accountability if there's something that didn't happen and you're at fault, or something that did happen and you're at fault, making sure that it's publicly seen, that's on me, and that's not on my employee. Maybe even do it sometimes when it's a shared responsibility, because that shows them, again, the vulnerability and also makes them feel more like you're approachable and more like you have their back and keeps that bond going. Bringing solutions to them is obviously a big part of being a manager. They want you to remove some roadblocks when they have them. Most people, especially if they're in a bit of a specialized role, are already to the point in their career where they're used to that concept of, they're not going to their manager and being like, I don't know how to A, B, C. They're gonna say, I'm having a roadblock with A, B, and C. Here's the solutions I tried. I've thought about doing this, but that's gonna cost more. It's gonna take more time. What do I do? That sort of stuff. So obviously listen to what they got, but bring them solutions to their roadblocks, even if it's just something simple so that they can think about it more. Taking the feedback that they give you. It's more common now to do 360 type reviews, but absolutely solicit that feedback all the time with your employees. You should probably be having one-on-one meetings with your employees all the time. Ask them every month when you have those meetings, how am I doing? What have I not done that you need me to do? What's next that I think I'm missing and I think you need to tell me, stuff like that. Follow through, obviously extremely important to trust because these all loop together. Making sure that you deliver on what you say you're going to deliver, and if you can't, explain to them why. Big with the follow-through is resolving conflicts. One of the biggest things I think a lot of people make early in their career is that if a conflict comes up, and by conflict, I mean anything. Someone's not doing their work, two coworkers can't get along, this department can't talk to this department effectively, anything small. Resolve those conflicts early. They will fester into larger wounds, they will be a bigger deal to deal with, and if you had just stepped in early, depending on when you think that's appropriate and talking to your employees and just resolving it like that, hey, I noticed that there's a conflict with X and Y. Can we just have a quick chat about that right now and we'll figure it out? 15 minutes, done. If you resolve those conflicts early, they won't grow into bigger things, and it'll actually take you less time to do it all overall, even though everyone's instinct at first is like, I'm gonna see where this goes, I want them to deal with, I wanna give them the freedom. Absolutely, but make sure that you have the mindset that you're resolving that as quickly as possible, because sometimes you stepping in and resolving those conflicts, still give them space, but sometimes you stepping in and just nipping it in the bud will save everybody time and stress. Empathy. Talked a lot about. I think everyone has a different definition of what empathy is, so I've broken it down into 4 things. Listening to people, understanding what they're saying, make decisions together since they are probably coming to you with a problem that they want your assistance with. Sometimes they just want you to listen, and that's cool too. So make sure when you're doing your listening and your understanding if they want you to propose solutions or they just need someone to talk to about it. If they just need someone to go to and be like, I'm really frustrated about this situation, and someone to like talk it out and someone to rubber duck with. So yes, make decisions together, but first make sure you're hearing what they need you to help making that decision with. Is it actually solutions, or is it actually just a sympathetic ear? And the last part of being empathetic is I think we're all humans. We all come from very different backgrounds, like Mohana had said. We all have unconscious biases. We all have thoughts about what the world is. We all have good days, and we all have real bad days, real bad weeks, real bad months. I'm like 3 months into not even be able to like focus at work, okay? So, we all have those moments in our lives, and making sure that when they come to you with problems, or when they are the problem, or when there's something happening, that you remember, hey, that's a human behind that frustration. I know them, we have an established relationship. Something's happening here, let me help them with the root of it. So that's kind of how I think you and your employees should act and behave, but there's always like best practices, like habits we should have, right? So the ones that I think are the most important and are more like checklistable than is having one-on-one meetings. Shameless plug for the company I work for, Fellow. We're great at one-on-one meetings. We actually have a software, free to use, Teams under 10. That's really good that if we're managing meetings, really good on one-on-one documentation. You can tag people, you can assign action items. You have that documentation follow through after each meeting. So if you as a new manager immediately establish the rapport and the expectation, we're gonna have one-on-one meetings. You're gonna lead the meeting as the employee. You're gonna tell me what you need out of this meeting. We're gonna have a bit of structure. You come with notes. It sets everything up amazingly. Delegate to them. Harkens back to trust. You gotta have that trust, and you probably gotta put it in your head before you feel it in your heart. Make sure that they're helping you. You will not be able to do it all. You will always take on more than you think. Well, you think you can do it, and then you can't do it because you're working till 6 or 7 at night. So you have to give them clear concepts of what they need to do, and then just trust it's gonna get done. You just gotta let it go. Just let it go. Just take it out and put it out. They're gonna do it. They're rock stars. They're gonna do it for you. Taking personal inventories regularly about what your strengths are and what your strengths aren't. Recognizing those. Knowing when you're giving to employees what they need and what they don't. All of that, making sure that you're getting better just as you're coaching them to get better. Likely you probably have a manager too, and you're still having one-on-ones with them even if you are a manager. So they can definitely help you with the feedback on those things too. Setting healthy boundaries is sometimes hard. You do sometimes get into a trap. If you're promoted to a team leader or manager, you were coworkers with all these people around, and now you're the one that has to kind of be the boogeyman in some situations. So it's kind of a one-way street that you should kind of allow them to share whatever they need to communicate within reason, of course, but you're going to hear way more about their personal lives than you're going to share with them. You have a manager, you can download that stuff too. You have a therapist, or plug for EAP, someone you can talk to if you're having issues. That only goes up, right? Those issues only go up. It's not their burden to take on. Make sure that there's that healthy boundary, because when it comes time to do the hard decisions, it's going to be much easier to separate the person from the hard decision and make the best decision. Sometimes that best decision isn't the best for them in the immediate future, but what's best for the company and for you probably is the best for everyone long term, even if it's a difficult situation right now, because you don't want things to fester. You don't want things to linger. You want to put them on the easiest path to the success in their life, not just the success in this company. You want to be a mentor to people, and luckily, usually in engineering teams, like the other two have talked to, there's opportunities to set people up with mentors that aren't you as well, so they can have a more robust relationship, but there's probably always something that you're going to kind of have to be their mentor about. And that goes back to the vulnerability and sharing your failures and sharing your successes and your stories and that sort of stuff. Respecting their privacy, again, that goes back to the healthy boundaries. Sometimes you're going to want to know why they're doing things. You're going to want to know why they're sick. You're going to want to know why they're upset. You're going to want to know why their partner called 9 times today if you work in an office. Respect their privacy. They'll share with what they need to share with you, and also that goes the other way. Things they do share with you, make sure that you're not going and sharing that information to everyone. There'll be circumstances that you probably do have to share that information with some people. Sometimes HR, if someone's spouse passed and they need some time off, you're probably gonna redirect them to HR and have that conversation with them like, hey, this happened in someone's personal life. So make sure if you think you do need to share something, you check in with them and be like, thank you so much for sharing that. I can see that that's gonna be a problem. Do you mind if I just talk to HR, the CEO, whatever it is, about this, and give them a little context? 95% of the time, people say yes to that, and will appreciate that you checked in about that. My last thing is notes, and I will say this is a cautionary tale for myself and many other people, because I talk to a lot of managers in a lot of difficult situations. Take notes. Take notes of everything. Be almost insane with the notes. You will forget. I guarantee you will forget. This is like the waitress that comes to you and thinks she can remember the 20 orders at a table and then comes back and says, you had the spaghetti, right? And you had the gluten-free pizza. So you remember things at first, but they start to pile up, and you will never regret those 90 seconds of taking some quick notes about the circumstance after. Also, there's legal implications too. If something becomes bigger, you have notes, you can take the notes however you want. Pen and paper, Google Doc, Fellow, shameless plug, any way you want, okay? As long as you have them in writing, email them to yourself, whatever it is, have some notes. The other area that I think it's really important to have some notes is personal things about your employees. Again, you will forget their wife's name. You will forget why their dog is dying. All of those things that you want to make it seem like you are listening all the time to them and hear everything, take some notes, and then you have those when you need to send them flowers for something, when you can congratulate them because their kid just graduated college. And frankly, I do this for dating apps. It's great, highly recommend it. Take notes about everything. What soda they like, what dessert they like, what their mother's name is, where they grew up, everything. Doesn't have to be creepy. You don't have to tell anyone. It can be secret notes. But take those notes so when the CEO comes and says, I heard they broke their leg, what can we send them? You're not sending them donuts when they've been on a gluten-free diet for 3 months. Easy enough, right? So that was everything for me. If you have any questions for me, honestly, add me to LinkedIn, DM me, happy. I'm on the Halihax Slack. Shameless plug for my side hustles too. So I'm big in the wedding biz right now. So if you want to get married, I'll marry you. And then also I have a really cool business basically doing audio guest books for events. So if you want to have a retro phone and leave messages on it, it's really cool. Just trying to promote it. So I'll give you a steep Halihax discount too. So yeah, go watch Ted Lasso if you haven't too. Thank you.